Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly armchair kickoff. Two very special guests here this evening, and also we'll be joined by another one later on in the show. So to the right of me, I'm joined by Mr. Grant Campbell from Campbell's Footballs podcast, and below me we are joined by Amy again from Three Devils Laguna and She Devils United. And also we're going to be joined by Mr. Shane Dowley as well, weekly armchair kickoff podcast regular. He'll be joining us later on in the show. So yeah, look, first of all, I suppose we're all here to talk about all things Manchester United, leading up to our big Europa League second leg fixture against Granada. The reverse fixture, we won 2-0. Great win away from home, 2 away goals. Going into Old Trafford now in the second leg, obviously on the back of a massive win on the weekend against Tottenham Hotspur. So I think for all Manchester United fans at the moment, we're all still on a high after the weekend. Rory's also in the house today. Rory says evening. Mr. Reese Russell is in the house today, with his these emojis. And anyway, whoever's in the comments today, guys, do wish Mr. Reese Russell a happy birthday. Eric Bailly did not say happy birthday to Reese, but do make sure, guys, all you say happy birthday to Mr. Reese Russell in the comments, even on the replay. Just drop in happy birthday for himself. And as always, as Matt is saying there, quite rightly on the video, smash a like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel. A lot more content coming this week, so do check it out. And Mr. Jamie Gretton is asking, are we live? Yes, Mr. Gretton, we are live and in person right here, right now. So I think we may as well get into it straight away. Let's address the elephant in the room. Sunday, massive 3 points away from home. 3-1 win against Tottenham Hotspur. One word that springs to mind for me is redemption, retribution. 2 words, sorry. But there are 2 words on my mind all weekend. Redemption and retribution. That's what I wanted after that 6-1 defeat against Spurs. Grant, coming to you first. What are your thoughts on Sunday?
Can I add a 3rd word there? Can I put in revenge? Because I think it was
absolutely.
I think it was a richly deserved 3 points for Man United on Sunday. A very good performance through adversity. It was a very difficult period towards the end of the first half. Obviously, with the goal that was ruled out by VAR. I'm sure we'll come on to talk about that in a while. And obviously then kind of added to that, going behind courtesy of Son Heung-min's opening goal. But second half, I thought Manchester United probably played as clean a second half performance as I've seen for a very long time. They had Spurs on the rack. They created chances. Their movement and ingenuity in midfield was very fluid, very crisp, a very comprehensive display. And very, very happy man on Sunday evening.
And we've commented in here from Mushroom Kev, who never fails to make me laugh. You just said Father Fred, resurrection. Absolutely. That's literally that's the comment of the night. Absolutely. So far anyway. Let's see if you guys in the comments can beat that comment from Mushroom Kev. Look, I suppose when I look at this game, obviously revenge, retribution, all that stuff is on my mind. But look, coming into the game, I was pessimistic, obviously, because again, Jose Mourinho, big game. You know, it's one of them things where do we go there? Do we get the 3 points? I know we're the best away team in the league this season, and look, it can be tough. Going to Spurs, like we don't have a great record there as of late. But to be fair, that first half, it wasn't the most entertaining first half, but we did create chances. We did look the more threatening out of the 2 teams, I feel. And look, again, VAR, look, we got robbed. Like, there's no 2 ways about it. How that's never a free kick. Never in a million years. Son actually tried to grab Fred's arm. Not Fred, sorry, because I can see Fred in the comments. McTominay's arm. McTominay is only moving, his arm away from him. So, look, I think when you look at that, again, Cavani did even up the odds and he scored. He got revenge on that. He got robbed of a goal. And Paul Pogba was robbed of a beautiful assist as well. Like that pass for Cavani, it was beautiful. It was pinpoint. The accuracy was fantastic. So, like, look, for me, I think, as has been said here in the comments, poetic justice. Like, that's literally what it was on Sunday. It was poetic justice. I think when you consider VAR, when you consider the 6-1 defeat previously, when you consider the way Martial got sent off in the reverse fixture, like, everything was going against us. When you consider the previous fixture and then that fixture, everything was going against us. And then, like, the players in the second half, they stood up, they were counted, they showed fight and determination. Like, when I look at that second half performance, thinking of a couple of games we played against, obviously against PSG, against Leipzig this season, and then obviously you think about previous games in Ollie's tenure, I think that second half was probably the best half of football Manchester United have played under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. When you consider chance creation, when you consider the fight, the determination, and also how organised they were at the back as well. Like, Spurs, apart from that time when Cavani headed onto the post, they didn't massively threaten us in that second half. We were the boss team. So, look, at the end of the day, massive 3 points. And again, character was shown. And I think that's what's most important. Amy, kind of, how were you feeling about Sunday? I haven't spoke to you about the game since.
Oh, absolutely buzzing. Now, I know it wasn't the best football in the first half, but by all means, I'd say Ollie definitely gave them the hairdryer treatment at half-time anyway, because they came out in the second half and they absolutely bossed it, to be honest with you. And you know what? At the end of the day, that is the Manchester United we know, and that's the Manchester United we know that they're capable of. So there's no reason why they shouldn't be going out every game playing like that. In terms of that McTominay foul and the free kick, to be honest, if that was a foul, McTominay should have been sent off. So I just think the referee shot himself, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the referee bottled it, because, like, if you're going to give that as a foul, McTominay's on a yellow card. He was after doing like another foul before that after he got a yellow. He would have been on a tightrope. In that case, if you're disallowing that goal, you need to be walking over to Scott McTominay and giving him a second yellow card. You need to be sending them off if you're going to be consistent. Do you know that, like, again, but consistency and Premier League referees are never really in the same sentence. They're never really in the same sentence. So, like, I think you look at that and you have to say, do you know, what's going on with that? Grant, how do you feel about the whole kind of VAR kind of decision against Spurs?
First of all, I completely agree with what Amy just said. If it was going to be ruled out, for me, McTominay had to go because he was on a yellow card, but it's never a foul in a million years. You have to use your arms to balance yourself when you're travelling with the ball. And McTominay is really looking away from Son in his visual mirror. He doesn't know that Son is there. I thought it was quite embarrassing from Son. I actually quite like Son Heung-min. I think he's a terrific player outside of Manchester United, but I thought his actions in the game, particularly in that moment, were quite frankly embarrassing. But not as embarrassing, in my opinion, as the decision to cancel that goal out. Chris Kavanagh, the referee, for me, there was no inkling that goal should have be discounted, because in live play, if VAR isn't in the equation, that goal stands. Absolutely no question about it. He must have heard somebody from Stockley Park saying, "You need to check this." Now, Chris Kavanagh is then told to go to the monitor to look at that decision. And this is where I have to have a bit of a rant here about VAR, because VAR, for me, is there for referees to hide behind. The standard of refereeing in the Premier League and all over Europe, I must admit, has been, quite frankly, embarrassing this season. We've seen it in so many games in the Premier League. We've seen it in so many games in the Champions League. And we've seen it in the Europa League as well. And I think the more and more the referees hide behind VAR and ask VAR to re-referee decisions, the more of the game is going to turn into a science. I feel it's already turning into a science. Now, Keane, as you know, and you know me better than Amy does, I'm a man of science. I work in science. And, you know, science has its place, but not on a football pitch. Football is a passionate game for players, for fans, for people to enjoy. And VAR and the kind of opportunity to use VAR is not being applied in the correct way by referees. Chris Kavanagh is only the only one of a line of referees who, quite frankly, are using VAR in the wrong way. The English Premier League are using VAR in completely the wrong way and have done throughout the entire season. And in my opinion, next season especially, they have to sort it out, or they're going to be an even bigger mess than they are at the moment.
Yeah, again, like that's something. Like again, it's something that's it's going to have to be more efficient, and there's going to be a proper review for VAR at the end of the season. I think the Premier League will have to look into that and maybe replace the referees, not even the ones that are on the pitch, because that's probably a big ask. But maybe the ones that are in Stockley Park. If the ones in Stockley Park should be ex-players, I think. If there's a way to do that with VAR, go to ex-players, get ex-players on board. Let's see if they can go in and they can do a job there. Because they've been there, they've done it. They'd have more discretion. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry to come back in again, Keane. What I will say is on BT Sport, we're all aware that Peter Walton and other ex-professional referees are on BT Sport to give their opinion to Darren Fletcher or Steve McManaman or others. I've got to say, with all due respect to Peter Walton, the game has moved on since he retired from the game. And quite frankly, the rules of the game have changed as well. So often we're looking back on slow motion of key refereeing decisions. And sometimes, and you guys will all, I'm sure, agree with me on this, slow-mo replays quite often, in fact, probably more so, make decisions worse than they actually are, whether that be serious foul play, whether that be a flick in the face that McTominay did to Son on Sunday. And, it's things like that that are quite frankly embarrassing. In a game of football, the dynamics of football, things can happen so quickly that your mind is all over the shop when you're concentrating and playing that killer pass or trying to get away from your opponent. You're not aware of your surroundings behind you. We're turning the game into a robotic sport. Football is not a robotic sport. It's a fluid game for people to enjoy. And I think, really, quite frankly, something needs eradicated. Otherwise, VAR is going to ruin so many things for so many teams, for so many players, for so many fans. And also financially, that will have an impact as well, particularly if teams are fighting to stay in the Premier League or battle for Europe, or even more so, battle for a league title.
Yeah, look last season when Sheffield United and Aston Villa, we're playing, and Aston Villa were lucky to stay up. Obviously, goal line technology failed.
You had the West Brom game last night. Kyle Bartley is standing about a foot offside. One of his feet is offside. But the guy who turns the ball into the net for West Brom is completely onside. But they don't have the correct camera angle to give that goal. It was very embarrassing. And thanks to Matthew Brown for messaging there. Yes, I am from the northeast of Scotland. One of Scots indeed.
Absolutely. And we've commented here from Reese as well. Reese said, Shane looks happy as someone stood on a butterfly and changed the course of events. I think Reese Russell is trying to roast you there, Shane. Shane, thanks very much for joining us on the show. This is your first time on the show, obviously, since the big 3-1 defeat. Sorry, big 3-1 win over Tottenham. Please, a defeat. No, I wouldn't be happy if it was a defeat. You had a lot to say on the show last Friday. I'm going to give you the floor, because I know you have a lot to say. Give us your thoughts on the game and give us your thoughts on VAR as well.
Really, the more I've been thinking about the game, the more kind of impressed I am, because it's rare we start poorly in a big game and then Ollie, either the players just pick it up or Ollie makes some changes in game and we improve. Like I thought the second half against Spurs, the best we've looked in a long time, to be honest. And it was, I've been very vocal criticising Ollie's in-game management, but when he switched to 4-2-2-2 in the second half, and I thought it worked really well, especially with Pogba when he was coming in off the left. When Spurs, after we scored, and Spurs were trying to press us a bit more, and Pogba coming in off the left into that half space and picking up the ball kind of killed them. And I was just really impressed, because we did play really well. First half we were poor, but it was kind of expected. It was kind of a hangover from the Europa League, and yeah, just really impressed with second half because I remember in the chat we were saying that the players' heads looked like they were gone, which was really frustrating because it looked like one or two decisions went against them and they just seemed like they were after losing the heads. They were just kicking players and bitching and giving out. So they showed good maturity in the second half to come out and just settle down. They didn't panic. They didn't rush things. They just did the normal things right, and yeah, it was good from the players and Ollie. I think that second half was very, very good, and it fills me with a bit of confidence for the rest of the season. So, because like I was saying, I don't feel confident win Europa League, but after a performance like that, feeling a little bit better now. So hopefully pick up a trophy, and it looks like top four is decided for us really, and it looks like we'll probably get second, which is good.
Yeah, and I commented here from Mushroom Kev just probably in relation to Jose Mourinho and Ollie's at the spat on Sunday. Angry Ollie is the best Ollie unless you're hungry. Yeah, I think that's
they just don't like each other.
That's a good one.
Funny, like they really.
Yeah, because look, at the end of the day, like when you look at the whole situation with Ollie and Jose, like Ollie, I think probably said the wrong sentence, like in terms of the sun and the food thing. Like, do you know what I mean? He could have said, if my player done that, he could get a taxi back to Manchester. Do you know what I mean? He could have said something like that, like, something like that. But like that son comment really kind of rattled Jose. And to see like Ollie's son came out today and said, "Oh, I do get fed. Jose's just angry. He lost the game on Sunday." Do you know what I mean? So like when you look at it like that, like Jose Mourinho is rattled and Jose Mourinho is finished. Like again, my handle on Sunday after the game, people saw tuned into the show on Sunday. That was my handle. He's finished, and I do reiterate that fact. I've been saying it since the start of the season. Me and Shane were on a show here last September. We tried to warn everybody. We tried to warn the Spurs fans. We were here. We were talking to the Spurs fans live on the channel. You can go back. And we said, that man's finished. You're getting season 2 Mourinho in season 1. You're going to get season 3 Mourinho in season 2. And that's what we're getting. That's what they're getting. And again, all the Tottenham fans are having the same arguments we were having 3 years ago. So it's beautiful to watch. And I love being proven right.
That sickened me as well. He was at United, and when we were turning that match United, and all the Chelsea fans turn around saying, "We told you so," and it's just sickening. Like when the other fans are proven right, the way we've been proven right with Mourinho. But yeah, they didn't want to listen. Tried to warn them, but they know now.
What can you do? Obviously, like when you look at the game on Sunday, I think we can all be in agreement. I know Edison Cavani was outstanding. On Sunday his movement was great, but I think the general consensus among Manchester United fans, there's only one man on the football pitch who was man of the match. And again, this was, I mentioned at the top of the show, retribution, redemption. This man springs to mind when I look at his performance on Sunday is Mr. Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba, in my opinion, apart from that game at Manchester City, I feel like that was almost his best performance in a Manchester United shirt. That second half, he bullied Tottenham's midfield. Even in the first half, he played well. He was getting on the ball. He was trying to make things happen. But obviously, the other players around him weren't playing well. For me, I'm going to come to the whole panel on this. I'm going to come to you first, Shane, because I know you're a big advocate for Paul Pogba. Should Manchester United move heaven and earth to keep him this summer?
Yeah, man. Like we need to try and get him to sign a new contract. But if you're not going to sign it's a sticky one. Like because if he doesn't sign a contract this summer, will United do what Spurs did with Eriksen? Because Spurs kept Eriksen till the following January. Because like up until the last minute when he left, they were like hoping that he'd sign a new contract. So they risked keeping him past the summer, hoping he'd sign a contract between then and the following summer. And obviously in January, he still wouldn't sign the contract, so they let him go for next to not. So United have to decide, like, if he's not going to sign a new contract this summer, do you move him on and get what money you can get for him, or do you take a risk and hopefully between the summer and next January, does he change his mind? Because if not, you're going to lose him for nothing. But yeah, it's a no-brainer. Like that, United should do everything they could to keep him. It's ridiculous. Like the shouts earlier on in the season and last season about how he should leave. Like, to be fair, I was saying at the start of the year he should leave, but that was more so to do for his own sake than for what was best for United. Like, obviously, what's best for United is him to stay and him to be in the team. But yeah, it's funny, like, because anytime he picks up an injury and he's out for a little bit, fans are saying like, yeah, we should move him on and this and that, and then he's back in the team for a few weeks, and the whole dynamic changes, and people are saying we need to sign him down to a new contract, which is what we have to do. Like, but I don't really know if it's possible, to be honest.
Yeah, like it just depends on whether his head is at, where his agent's head is at. For me, I'm in agreement. I think he needs to stay. Like, again, I said this on shows, I'm saying this now the last fucking year now. You get Pogba tied down, you get Bruno tied down to a new contract, you get a defence midfielder, and then you have a title winning midfield in Pogba, Bruno, and let's say I'm going to throw a name out there, Declan Rice. You get them three in there. That's a title winning midfield.
Yeah, it's all down to whether the club wants to be serious or not. Because last year it looked like he wanted out, and then when we finished the season strong, and it looked like we were going to act like a serious club in the summer and make a couple of signings, he was being heavily linked with signing a new contract. And obviously, when the summer didn't pan out well, all them contract talks stalled because United weren't showing ambition. So hopefully, like, yeah, it's all to do with the club. I think that if United act proper in the window and show some ambition, he'll stay. It's all whether or not they're happy to finish in top four and just getting that Champions League money and not kicking on. That'll determine whether he stays or not, I think. Because I actually think the best thing for his career now might actually be Stage United, because I definitely think a move to Madrid isn't happening. They don't have the money. Any money they do have, I think, will be going towards Mbappe or someone next year. Juve might not have the money, but even so, Juve are dirt at the minute, and they look like they're going through a rebuild now. So you look at United, and like, United haven't been great a lot of the time this year, but you still would say they're only 2 or 3 players away from realistically challenging for the league. So, like, would you rather possibly 2 or 3 players away from challenging from Premier League, or go back to Juventus and be in the middle of a rebuild? So I actually think, yeah, goes by, I think it makes more sense footballing wise from State United. It's just down to whether the club want to match its ambition or not. I think has always been the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, ambition is the key word. And we talk about this season in, season out, with this ownership. Does it show ambition? I think we all know that they use us as a cash cow to fill their pockets. Amy, I'm going to come to you next with this, because in the past you've been very critical of Pogba's agent, Mino Raiola, and kind of critical when Pogba didn't show commitment to the club. But you have gone on record and you have said that with his current form, you're happy for him to stay at the club if he shows commitment. Are you in the same boat as me and Shane, that this club should just move heaven and earth, do everything we absolutely can to keep this man at the football club?
Yeah, look, in the past, I was at a stage where it felt like Pogba wasn't committing to the club. He wasn't playing his best football. Like, anytime we went on an international break during the summer, Raiola would always come out and have words. His brother was coming out having words saying that he wanted to move. And to be honest, like, I just don't think we need that circus around the club, to be honest. If you're a player and you want to be at the club, commit to the club. If you don't want to be there, don't be there. So I feel like if Pogba is playing his best football, I think by all means definitely give him a new contract. But I mean, if he wants to go at the same time, let him go, because if he wants to go, he's not going to fully commit either. But what I would worry is, if you do let him go, clubs aren't going to have the money for him this summer, unfortunately. So could be likely that he'd go on a free next year. But also, if he left, I don't think the board would be able to replace him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I think if Paul Pogba leaves his football club, you have to get East 2 to 3 players in to replace him.
It's fair enough because we're saying like United are only 2 or 3 players away from a good title challenge. But if you lose Pogba, that makes a balls of the whole thing because then you need to replace him, and he's not an easy player to replace, man. Really not an easy player to replace. Like his skill set, it's very like not many players in the world have his skill set, like his technical ability and physical attributes as well. And he's proved like very, very what's the word when you're playing a different positions?
Versatility.
Yeah, he showed good versatility for us this year because he's played inside left in a diamond. He's played wide left in a 4-2-3-1. He's played CM in a double pivot. So he's given us options, and that's So it's tough if we don't hold on to him. So hopefully we do, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in that boat again because if you get him in, you get him tied down, and then you get a defensive midfielder, you get a right winger. Again, there you are. You're challenging for that league title. I don't know what else to say. I think that's the key thing here. Grant, are you in the same boat as the three of us? Would you like to see him stay at the football club, or do you think is his agent too much of a circus? Is there maybe other players out there, if he was to leave, that we can get in that maybe could do the same job?
It's a very, very difficult and complex situation with Pogba. First of all, I've got to say I quite like Paul Pogba. When he came to Manchester United, he's had fits and starts, I think is the phrase I would describe him. But I do think, certainly in the second half of the season, when he's been at his best, he's been a match winner. His performance against Manchester City proved that he's still one of the best players on his day, not just in the Premier League, but in world football. There's a key element to me with regards to Pogba, and it comes up this summer, the European Championships. When he was at his best, Pogba at the World Cup in 2018 and obviously at the Euros in 2016, that was where Pogba was really finding his feet, and I thought a massive player at the World Cup, particularly in the final against Croatia. And I think the problem with Pogba is himself. It's his own work ethic, his own mentality. I think he's one of these players, when he's at his best, he reminds me of a prime Yaya Toure when he was at Manchester City. That guy that breaks from midfield, still does the dirty work as well, but can actually influence a game with his power and determination. And I think that's the sort of player that Manchester United need. And I'm sort of seeing similarities with Pogba and Yaya Toure more and more now these days, because I do think that Pogba, certainly at the weekend against Tottenham, showed that in the big games, he can deliver, but he still needs to do that on a consistent basis. To go back to your question, Keane, would I keep at Manchester United? Yes. Would I make sure there was an improved contract? Absolutely, I would. And I think in that contract, there must be a definition that Manchester United must be challenging for silverware of any description, not just a league title, of any description. Because we go back to the kind of, we can kind of clear the slate and go down back to the nuts and bolts. Manchester United should be challenging for silverware. Manchester United should not just be happy to be battling for the place in the top four or finishing second. The Europa League this season is still a massive possibility and an opportunity to win for Manchester United. For me, they missed a big opportunity to win the FA Cup. They missed a big chance against Leicester in the quarterfinals. I felt that was a great opportunity for United to win silverware. Pogba was, I think he was out that day, or he kind of came off the bench, if I'm correct.
He got back from injury, yeah.
It was his first game back from injury, I think.
You could fairly tell he was not up to full speed for that game. And I did think that was a massive loss. And I do realise that Ollie was changing up the team, but it kind of worked against him in that match. And Leicester, in the end, were too good for us that day. But also our own mistakes defensively cost us as well. I do think Pogba's a very important nut in the machine of the wheel here. And I do think that if Pogba was to go in the summer or in January, where it may happen, or if it does happen, I think he'd be a massive player to kind of fill. I'm not sure he would be, I think the place can be filled, but I do think you would have to almost change the dynamic, the style of Manchester United if Pogba was to go. And I'm not sure how you do that. I mean, you look at kind of guys in the Premier League, guys like Jack Grealish, guys like James Maddison at Leicester City, that you've got players like, Declan Rice, you mentioned earlier, Keane. if United are going to go down that neck of the woods, then if they do sell Pogba or whatever, they're going to have to change their style. I don't think there's another person currently in that Manchester United team who could do the same stuff as Paul Pogba can do. I mean, Donny van de Beek's come into Manchester United and it's not happened for him. I really want it to happen for him because he's a fantastic player at Ajax. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic the next few weeks and months ahead. Amy mentioned, Mino Raiola. I listened to the Transfer Window podcast with Duncan Castles and Ian McGarry, and I know that.
Duncan Castles, oh no!
I do it because McGarry is from Scotland and Castles comes from my hometown. The interesting thing about that, the dynamics within that is very interesting because Raiola holds a lot of the cards here, and I don't know if that's a good thing. I think mostly it's a bad thing because ultimately it should be down to the player rather than the agent. But I think there's going to be an ever-developing and fluid issues that are going to allay over the next few weeks and months. But I do think this summer's European Championships are going to be absolutely vital in the discussion of the stories.
I think, do you know what? For the likes
again,
of for a player like Paul Pogba, do you know when Bruno Fernandes came in and we'd absolutely no creativity in the middle of the pitch? I think Pogba doesn't want that responsibility. I don't think he handles all the pressure on him. So I feel like when Bruno Fernandes did come in, I feel like Pogba kind of let loose a little bit and he was feeling a bit more comfortable. So I feel like he definitely does need the right players around him.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
But like you look at Pogba,
players just play better with good players around him. When it's ridiculous when he was out last year and Bruno came in, and people were saying, "Oh, we don't need Pogba now because we have Bruno." Like that would eventually just run into the same problems we had without Bruno, where you have only one midfielder capable of creating something like that. Like it just makes a massive difference when you have two players able to do that job because it just takes the pressure off of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And again,
sorry, Keane, I was going to say I agree with what Shane was saying about Fernandes. He's an important part of this jigsaw as well. There's no doubt that since Fernandes has come into Manchester United, he's improved that squad and the team on the pitch and the performances on the pitch tenfold. But I don't think we should be relying on Pogba and Fernandes or both of them to deliver. It has to be a collective unit from Manchester United. I know we'll go back to the weekend there, but I actually thought Fred had a really good second half against Spurs. And there's been a lot of criticism of Fred this season, particularly in the games against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League and some other games in the Premier League. I actually thought Fred played very well on Sunday, especially in the second half. I think Scott McTominay is a very important piece of this jigsaw as well. And as a fellow Scot, I actually really like McTominay. He's a very good, versatile player. We've talked a lot about versatility on today's show. I think someone like McTominay could be a big, important factor to allow guys like Pogba and Fernandes to do their stuff at the top end of the pitch, because it's all right going forward, but we need guys as well that could do the dirty work when teams are coming on the counter or putting us under pressure. And that's where you need this balance across the team. And I think Pogba will be a very important piece of this jigsaw to make sure that balance is not upset.
Yeah, massively. And one thing I'll always I'm going to point out exactly kind of what Shane said is Pogba needs personnel. Like I think Pogba's been massively let down since he's come to this club. Like he was promised the world and the stars and he came to this football club. And he came to Manchester United midfield with Marouane Fellaini, Morgan Schneiderlin, and over the hill Bastian Schweinsteiger. He had Michael Carrick, who was just leaving. Carrick really retired not long after Pogba left. Pogba came, sorry. Ander Herrera was there. He was a good midfielder. Like he was good. He was good for us large spells. Like you look at that midfield that Pogba came into, he was massively let down. He was massively let down. Now Bruno's come in and now he has someone to do some creative work for him. And I think that's where the problem is that that United were just massively relying on Paul Pogba all the time. But now the fact that we have Bruno, now we have Pogba, now we have Van de Beek, there needs to be more defensive midfielders in behind them to do that dirty work in behind them, so they can have all the freedom to go forward and create these chances.
This is why I always say as well, when Fred and McTominay are playing behind Bruno, obviously they're not feeding Bruno what he needs. So Bruno has to cover a lot more ground to go look for the ball himself. So I feel like that's why Pogba is so important behind Bruno as well.
One question that I want to ask the guys here, just as a general thing: do we think that Fred and McTominay should play together, or just one or both, one or the other?
Neither.
I don't really like the idea of them both playing. I feel like you're having two players there to do the job of one player, and it's not Ollie's fault really, because we don't only midfielder at the club. Sorry, did I cut out there?
So did Keane. Or both.
The both of them guys.
I just want to say, right, I don't feel like we should have two players doing the one job. So I feel like if we get one really good holding midfielder, Pogba beside him, Bruno in front of him, Bob's your uncle, that's a really good midfield.
I just think that someone like McTominay, he's a guy that's still very young, he's still very raw, but I do think over the course of this season his performance has become much more consistent. I think because obviously it's helped him on the international stage as well. Steve Clark for Scotland has played a very interesting formation with a kind of three, a defensive back three or a back five. And McTominay sort of sat on either the right hand side of the back three or kind of sitting in front of a back four in recent months. And I think that's helping his versatility as well. I just think someone like him could be a very important player for United long term. But I think if United are going to get a defensive midfielder in this window, I think Declan Rice is obviously a very good shout. The one I've been looking at is Wilfred Ndidi at Leicester. I think he's a very, very good quality player. For me, every time I watch Leicester, he's one of these guys who, every time he plays, he improves that team tenfold. Because Leicester looks short when he's not in that team. You guys like Chowdhury, you have guys like N'Golo Kante when they were at their best. And Ndidi has come into that team. And I'm not.
Is he gone again?
It's just a very interesting dynamic because United need to play on the positive. There's a lot of things right at Manchester United, but I do think there's things like in every engine room that need to tighten up. And when you have screws loose on an engine, if you tighten them up, they're gonna be a better machine for that. Rice is a good option, but I watch Rice on too many occasions, and I see a lot of hype for Declan Rice. And I'm not saying Declan Rice is a bad player or a great player. For me, he's a guy that I need to see more of because there's times in matches when I watch Rice where I don't know what he offers games, but there's other games I see where he's actually very good. I'm not sure where I sit with Declan Rice, to be honest with you.
With Declan Rice, I'll be honest.
I think
with Declan Rice, I think he's a lot more technical in terms of that on the ball than Wilfred Ndidi. I think Ndidi is good at breaking up the play. But when you want to get a player who makes that link from defence to attack, Declan Rice is that player. Declan Rice is a lot better than Wilfred Ndidi. I think Ndidi is good at breaking up the play, but he's very limited on the ball. And again, we need midfielders who are good on the ball. We have McTominay and Fred who are average on the ball. So we need one specialist defensive midfield player to come in and do that job.
I think McTominay will keep improving, Keane. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't really see McTominay as a defensive.
Well, I think with McTominay, he's not a defensive midfield player, Grant. That's the problem. He's a box-to-box midfield player.
Yeah.
Box-to-box midfielder, but we need that as well in the team.
Yeah. I think McTominay is a good option as a box-to-box, but I definitely don't see him as a defensive midfielder because I think all his best attributes, are his athleticism, him being able to progress the ball, less so with his passing and more so with his ball carrying because he does have that burst of pace. He has a good shot on him. He's a decent finisher in and around the box. He is good at making them third man runs from midfield. And I don't think his positioning defensively is great, but he covers a lot of ground and recovers, and he wins a lot of duels, so he's able to roam and break up play. So that's why I see him way more as a ball winning box to box than a defensive midfielder. But I agree with what.
Yeah, and I think again this is where it comes down to needing specialists, though. I think this is where the problem is. We're shoehorning McTominay and Fred into one, like, to cover the role of one defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
Like, if you put McTominay in that sitting defensive midfield role on his own, he's not going to be able to do it on his own because that's not his speciality. That's not his position. And again, we can't be shoehorning players into positions because, again, against the bigger sides, it'll bite us in the backside. So for me, I think McTominay, yes, is a box-to-boxer, especially coming on in the middle of games to give us something different, is definitely an option. But if you want to be challenging for the Premier League, you need to have a top-class defensive midfield player in there. And you look what Declan Rice has done for West Ham this year. Like, at that age, he made captain. I know Mark Noble is club captain. Mark Noble isn't on the pitch, which is more often than not. Declan Rice is the captain of that West Ham side. And at that age, to be given that trust by a manager like David Moyes, who wouldn't give the captain's armband to someone who was inexperienced. If he sees you, if you have leadership qualities, he'd give you that captain's armband. And I think when you look at his overall quality, yes, he can play defense. He's a solid defensive midfielder. But even he's played at centre back. So obviously, previously in his career. So when you look at that, he has all the defensiveness to play that role. And the fact of the matter is, like, he's most likely going to start for England in the Euros too. Which again, even if Jordan Henderson was fit, you'd have to say that Declan Rice should be England's holding midfield player. So I think you have to look at this and say he'd be number one. Now, obviously, indeed, he could be a target. You could have Zakaria. He could be something from Dunmatch and Gladbach. He could be someone you could look at. But I think, going forward, you'd have to say, if you had to nail down, for me anyway, one defensive midfield target, Declan Rice ticks all the boxes for me anyway.
Agree.
But kind of looking ahead, obviously, we're here to talk about the Granada game, second leg in the Europa League. Obviously, we've a 2-goal lead going into this game. Couple of suspensions coming into this game as well. Obviously, McTominay, Maguire, Luke Shaw, players who are out. For me, looking into it though, I probably would have rested Maguire and Luke Shaw anyway, in this game, suspension or not. But in a way, both of them are getting a well-deserved rest this Thursday, looking into the weekend. Grant, I'm going to come to you first with regards to this game. How confident are you coming into this game on Thursday, and how would you approach it? Like, what would be your kind of process behind this game?
Well, I'm fairly confident that we got the second goal in Granada because, it was a nervy game up until that late Fernandez penalty. I had to watch back the highlights today just to kind of remind myself of how the game was. And I would say the performance was workmanlike. It was not particularly spectacular, but it was job done. And I think when you're at this stage in the Europa League, especially away from home, it's about being clean, it's about being consistent, and it's just about getting the job done. I thought United were fairly comfortable. De Gea really only had to make a couple of fairly routine saves from distance. I think the lad Kennedy was their guy who was having quite a lot of their shots from Granada.
He was just letting fly.
and of course, I thought what United did very well in the game on Thursday is they kept Roberto Soldado very quiet. I know he had a torrid time in the Premier League, but he's still a very good player. In terms of how I'd approach the game on Thursday, I obviously think we should go and try and put a good performance in. I think we need to kind of rubber stamp our authority as the favourites in the Europa League betting, and where a lot of people's views are that United are favourites to win the Europa League. I think we need to put in a performance that actually showcases that we are the team to beat. So I would be going all out to try and get a couple of early goals and really try and put on a performance that people will look at and say they are going to be taking some stock in. Because at this stage of the competition, we're coming to the business end. There's still a lot of very good teams left in the Europa League. I know Shane said earlier on he was very nervous about United's chances in the Europa League, and I am as well. I actually think this is a massive chance for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to deliver Manchester United silverware, but also a piece of silverware for himself as well. So I think his own development as a manager, whether he stays at United long term or moves on, is important. And I think the Europa League, people dismiss the Europa League because it's not a grand competition to win. For me, any trophy is worthwhile winning, and United have a great chance in it. But I do think they need to put in a very positive game plan. You mentioned obviously about the suspensions, Keane. I do think that Shaw would have been rested. I think Tellez will come in. Would not be surprised to see Matic come in instead of McTominay. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Cavani was so good on Sunday. I would like to see him start in this game. I think the way we played off the Tottenham game with the positivity, especially in the second half, I'd like to see that continuing into the game of Thursday night. But just a very positive display. I'd like to see us put in. A couple of goal margin would be very satisfactory. But one thing we can't afford to do early in the game is get off to a bad start, because United need to showcase that they're not just a team that's good at coming from behind. How many times have Manchester United come from behind this season to win games? That's all very well, but it does come up against you a couple of times in the future. It will come up and bite you if you're not careful. I want to see United get on the front foot right from the start, get a couple of early goals, and really put in a professional 90-minute performance, because there have been times this season where United have been good for 70 minutes, but been sloppy for 20 minutes, and they've cost themselves silly goals or conceded really silly free kicks and things which have led to goals as well. So United need to win this game, and they need to win it well. And I think that will give a lot of people on the outside looking in thinking United are probably the team to beat.
Yeah, I think, look, there's no doubt about we're favourites to this competition. Like, I think the only other team you can look at would be favourites is Arsenal, but they have a tough game against Slavia Prague. We don't even know if they're going to be in the next round. Like, it's Prague have knocked out Leicester, they've knocked out Rangers. They've been a good side. Now, look, they're a bunch of racist bastards. I hope they get knocked out. I hope Arsenal beat them. But, like, it is a tough ask for Arsenal, and going into that game. But, one thing I was going to come to Amy on this, because obviously we're talking about wrestling players, we're talking about suspensions. We have a comment in here from Donny van de Beek's number one fan, Mr. Greg Chambers, another fellow Scot. Greg Chambers says, "All right, folks, even Donny will manage to get a game on Thursday." So, Amy, do you think Donny van de Beek starts Thursday?
That's if he rests Bruno. Now, we know what Ollie's like with Bruno. He just kind of very rarely rests him, to be honest. But I think Bruno really does need a rest. And I think, look, Donny van de Beek is a good player. He has the quality there, so there's no reason why he shouldn't start, to be honest. I would definitely rest Rashford as well, but I would definitely play Pogba, because I feel like out of them three, he's the one that is the least tired, say, because he was injured there for a while, so obviously getting the minutes has helped him recently. So I feel like out of them three, definitely Pogba should be the one to play.
Yeah, I think when you look at the three midfield players, there's like the three players you'd rest, obviously, be Rashford, Pogba, Fernandes. They'd be your three most probably important players. And like, I think Rashford and Bruno, like, I think have to be rested. I think that's just a no-brainer because the amount of football they've played this season. Pogba's only back from injury. Pogba's probably back from injury, can play himself into match fitness. He can definitely play, because, like, again, get him into the midfield too. Get him into his natural position. Get him more on the ball, and let's do damage early on. Let's beat him. So I think a midfield of maybe Matic, Pogba, Van de Beek. I'd like to see that on Thursday. But Shane, are you in the same boat? Like, do you want to see wholesale changes? Want to see maybe Amad Diallo get a few minutes on Thursday? Kind of, where's your head at looking at Thursday?
Yeah, I pretty much just agree with what you said. I think, like you, I'd like to see Matic, Pogba, and Van de Beek play together, because I can't really remember if Van de Beek has played with Pogba yet. I don't think he's played with Pogba. If Pogba's playing in midfield, I think it's been from the left. So it'd be nice to see him get minutes with Pogba behind him, because we've seen a lot of Van de Beek's picked up these spaces and he hasn't been able to get the ball because the likes of McTominay and Fred can't progress it, but Pogba would be able to find him. So I might see if we'd see an improvement in his performance then. Definitely Bruno and Rashford should be rested, especially Rashford. He's definitely still injured, and he's been injured for a while. So just rest him. We're 2-0 up in the tie. Like, we should be able to cope. Maguire, is one who should be rested. I know he's suspended, which is probably good because if he wasn't suspended, he would probably play the full game. So yeah, I'd probably just rest Rashford, Bruno, and Shaw, and then go strong apart from that, because that should be enough. Like, we're 2-0 up. Granada have dirt. Like, that first leg was probably one of the worst games I've seen in my life, and we are comfy throughout the whole thing. You know, they didn't threaten us at all.
We didn't necessarily play bad that game though. Granada just tactically got it right, to be honest. They just sat back, played really tight, so we couldn't find space. So
yeah, it's just very much like what we've been like all season now. We move the ball so slowly, where like everything is just too casual, and we don't lift it until we have to. You know, and we are never in so much trouble. They never caused us so much trouble to spur us into life. So we just kept going the way we were, and it was enough because, you know, we just had enough quality to do it. So yeah, like, you know, they're not really a threat. Like, obviously, if something bad did happen, I look like a fool. But yeah, I'm not really nervous. I think rest the couple, like, and we should have enough, you know.
Granada had a win against Valladolid on Sunday in La Liga, but their away form in La Liga is very poor. They're 16th of the 20 teams in La Liga. They've only picked 12 points away from home. So all the stats say United have a very strong chance. But then, of course, United's form at Old Trafford this season has been sketchy, shall we say. But I would like to think that, you know, with a 2-0 away goal lead, if United could get a very early goal, Granada have to come out and score 3 goals. I agree with Aaron's point he's just made there. I'd like to see Tuanzebe start if he's fit as well, because I do think with Maguire being suspended, there'll be an opportunity for him to come into the side. I actually was intrigued by Shane's point about Diallo. I actually would like him to start on Thursday as a little bit of a wild card selection.
Into that.
Go Greenwood up front and Diallo right wing.
I agree. Something a little bit different, just to see what Diallo can do from the start again. We've seen him do well coming off the bench. I'd like to see how he do at the start of a game. He's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I really like the look of him.
On that point, since we've all kind of said who we like to start, I'm actually going to go for 11s you want to see this Thursday. So, Grant, since you've mentioned Diallo, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay.
What would be the starting 11 you'd like to see on Thursday?
Well, I know De Gea started the away leg, so I would like to probably continue that, obviously, from the second leg. So I'd have De Gea in goal. I think Wan-Bissaka will continue to play at right back. I'd like to see Tuanzebe, if he's fit, play alongside Lindelof at central defence, and Alex Telles at left back, obviously with Shaw suspended. I agree with your 3 in midfield, Keane. I'd like to see Pogba, Van de Beek, and Matic in there. And then the kind of 3 up front interests me, because I would like to see Greenwood through the centre. And I'd like to see Diallo start. Now, the question mark for me is, does Cavani play to move Greenwood out wide? Or do you throw a little bit of a wild card in there and play someone else? I'm not entirely sure where you go. Dan James has been playing quite well. He played reasonably well in the first leg. You know, he started in Granada. I would actually have changed my mind. I'm going to play Greenwood out wide with Cavani through the centre, just because Cavani is on form after that performance against Spurs.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I had Cavani originally in my team, but if you're keeping him, I'd rather keep him for the weekend. I think, like, again, can he play 3 games in 1 week with his injury record? I don't think so. That's the problem. So I'll give him my 11 before I go to both Amy and Shane. So for me, David De Gea in goal, just off the basis of what Grant said. He started the first leg. He's been demoted to cup goalkeeper. So for me, I go with David De Gea. Wan-Bissaka, a right back, again, by process of elimination. I'm not starting Brandon Williams in this game. I'm starting Saka. At centre back, Eric Boy did fly back from Ivory Coast. I don't know if he's cleared to play. If he is, I go Boy and Tuanzebe at centre back if Boy is cleared.
Would he not be quarantining? by.
I don't know. That's the thing. Did he already not go through the quarantine period? I don't know.
He
I don't
wouldn't
know
have
what
been
story
training
is that.
anyway.
But if he is,
True.
sorry.
He wouldn't have been training anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah. So on the base side, if Boy is there, I start him. But if not, you have to go to Xavier and Lindelof again by process of elimination because they're literally the only centre backs we have available for this game. Again, Alex Telles left back. Again, just Luke Shaw's out. Brandon Williams is not starting there. Telles, so you've senior left back we have there. And so again, he has to start. Again, my three in midfield, I'll go Nemanja Matic, Paul Pogba, and Donny van de Beek. Then my front three, I'm going to go with Mason Greenwood through the middle, Amad Diallo out right wing, and I'll go with Daniel James on the left. Look, I think Daniel James has played well as of late in the United shirt. He hasn't done too much wrong. And again, if Granada, they do need a goal, they are going to push high up the pitch if they want to get something out of this game. Let's exploit space. Let's get Diallo and James on the wing. Let's exploit space. Let them front three change up front, and let's try batter them. Let's really try go for it. Because if you have Donny van Beek or Pogba behind them three lads, I've no doubt they'll get chances in the box and they'll score goals. So that's the team I go with. Again, I'm saying this now. I do not want to see Bruno Fernandes or Marcus Rashford set foot on that football pitch until after the game, until they're shaking hands with their teammates after beating Granada. It's the only time I want to see them set foot in that football pitch. It's the only time. No chance I'd want to see anyone in a minute. Other than that, no way. Shane, what's the 11 you'd like to see on Thursday?
So it's what I'd like to see. Not like who I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to see De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka right back, just because he's basically the only right back. Williams isn't at the level. I'd like if we were able to give Wan-Bissaka a rest, but he really is the only right back, to be honest. So him right back, Telles left back, Lindelof and Boy centre half, but it sounds like it looks like Boy won't be available. So if not, then Lindelof and Tuanzebe. Then same midfield three as ye, Matic, Pogba, and Van de Beek, which I kind of like that. I think that midfield three could be wavy, like, because the spaces Van de Beek will pick up, and Pogba and Matic are probably our best two passers out of our four CMs comfortably, so they should be able to find them. I go Diallo right wing, I go Shola Shoretiri left wing, and Greenwood up front.
Ooh.
Yeah, like
Shortire getting a start. I love it. Jim.
Yeah, it won't happen, but if that's just what I'd like to see, I'd like to see him and Diallo get, like, I get why Ollie wouldn't do it, because it still is only 2 goals. You don't want to making too many changes, but I just like to see him get a chance from the start, because it is hard when you're a young player coming into a game for the last 20 minutes, especially when the game is already killed, because the team isn't playing at a serious tempo. You know, you're kind of playing just out the last few minutes trying to kill the game, so it's hard to kind of do anything in them minutes. So I would like to see him get a chance from the start, see what they're capable of, because I do really like the two of them. I think they're both very good players.
Yeah, again, and I said this not too long ago, that like I think Shortire definitely has a high ceiling, and he's someone who I think next season I'd like to see get a few more games. I think obviously you have senior players like Juan Mata, who are on about giving them a 1-year deal. I don't agree with that at all. Like, he's taken up a squad place of a short theory. Do you know what I mean? Mata, like, what's he really have to offer over 38 game season? Not a lot. I'd leave him go and keep a short, get a short theory in the squad. Obviously, to be a creative attacking midfielder. Before I go to Amy with her starting 11, on United's Facebook page, they literally have to share like a new jumper that they have advertised. It's like 110 quid. Wait till I show you this, guys. It's so wavy. Look at that.
Top gear, so excited. Yeah, that's nice, man. That's crisp.
Nice.
That is lovely. Oh my god. And Paul Pogba has it out there as well. So that
early in the
That
show.
picture of Pogba.
I'll be,
That's what I thought.
I'll be wearing
That
that.
picture of Pogba in the jacket confirms he's staying. Amy, what 11 would you like to see coming into Thursday?
So I've kind of gone the same. So De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Tuanzebe, Telles, Matic, Pogba, Van de Beek in midfield. Greenwood through the middle, Dan James on the left, and I'm going to be completely different. And I think if you're playing against a team that's going to sit back and need a bit more intelligence in there, and what better man to put in there than Mata? So
Good shout, actually, because Mata, usually when we're playing like the quote-unquote second team, Mata is like almost always the best player because he just links up well with everyone because he's the smartest player at the club. I love that. That's a nice t-shirt.
Yeah. But look for me with Mata, it's like I understand where the
we've
thought
talked
process
about it
is.
enough,
But
Keane.
like,
Keane was slandering him a minute
We've
Yeah.
talked about it enough now.
yeah, again, like look, if he comes into the side, he'd play well against a team like Granada and a dead rubber. Like again, I don't mind that, but like if you're thinking long term, we're talking about long term process. We're all talking about long term thinking. Why are you giving them a contract? It doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? If you're talking about
because he's obviously on high enough wages as well. So why would you give someone on them wages another an extension when he really is only playing in these dead rubber games? You know, like the early stages of the FA Cup and the League Cup and Europa League. You know, so it really doesn't make sense to give him another extension. Just leave him go in the summer, bring through. It's a squad space. Then
like you look at a player that we have, Shane. You even look at a player we have in Hannibal, who is who's a player who I think can come up and who could make an impact. If there's anyone who could be that creative outlet that we can bring up from the academy, Hannibal has to be a player that he can take that spot in the squad.
Yeah. Actually, fuck Donny. If it's the 11 I'd like to see play Hannibal, get fucking Donny out here, man.
Oh, Greg Chambers. You just became Greg Chambers' best friend.
Man, I really hope he gets to make his debut before the end of the season because I think we have some gems in the other 23s, but he's probably my favourite. I don't know who's better between him and Diallo because like I haven't watched a lot of Diallo compared to Hannibal, you know. But man, Hannibal is just so sick, such a fucking sick player. I really like him.
I had to get him in there because I know he's a good player and I know you love him. But Rach has a comment in here. Rach says, "Leave Donny alone."
No,
Donny gets it awful off the lads, not me though.
And I'm in his corner when Greg is having a go on him, like I'll always defend him. But Hannibal is my guy, to be honest. So if I had to pick between whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Hannibal is he's a promising talent. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens next season with him. Does he get a few more games? Especially the fact, look, potentially we're going to be in the Champions League and all these other competitions. I always say potentially because you just never know at this football club. Not uncertain. But anyway, we've given the teams. Now this is my favorite part of the show, which is score predictions. Again, I've watched other shows all evening. I've seen wild score predictions. I've seen interesting score predictions. So it'd be interesting to see kind of where everyone's at with regards to this. Rach, just before I get to the score predictions, Rach has said Hannibal was in Manchester City Centre today having a meal. Rach, did you ask him for his autograph or did you get a picture or something with him? That would have been class. We could have plastered up on the weekly armchair on the thumbnail here today. We could have slapped it up there. But
armchair exclusive there.
Rach, if you see Hannibal strolling around Manchester, just tell him that Shane Dowdy is his biggest fanboy and he wants his autograph and send it over to Carrick there. So I'm going to come to actually Shane. I'm going to come to you first with regards to the score predictions. How do you think it's going down?
I think 2-0 United. I think it won't be a great game because we'll kind of be at a slow tempo because we'll be trying to kill the game, and I just think kind of similar, a little bit similar enough to the first leg, except obviously they'll have to come out. They won't be able to sit as deep, and they'll have to come out, and there'll be more space for us to hit them on the break and whatever. So I think it'll be a comfy 2-0 win. Probably Greenwood will score, I hope, and Greenwood score twice. He's coming in.
Scored. Getting a lot of 2-0s here in the comments, and the comment section is really smashing 2-0. Looks like we're getting a 2-0s. Grant, how are you feeling? How do you think it's going to go down?
I think it'll be. I agree with what Shane was saying. To be honest with you, I think it'll be a very solid performance. I think it'll be a bit of a meh game. To be fair, Granada have to come out, and I think that could play into United's hands, playing on the counter attack. I'm going to be a little bit more generous than 2-0 though. I'm going to go 3-0. Now remember the last time I was on this show, Keane, you may remember this, was on with Jamie Mackay, and I got the score correct for Sheffield United's game with Man United earlier in the
score as well, actually.
Yeah, I got the score right as well. So I'm under pressure here to try and get a double and prove that the first one wasn't a fluke. So I've gone 3-0. Who's going to score is questioned. I think Van de Beek will get a goal. I'm going to say that right here, right now on the show. I think Van de Beek will get a goal. I'm not sure what will be the first or the third goal, but we'll see. I think he'll get a goal. I think Greenwood will get a goal. He's flying just now. He's got a very good goal on Sunday. I think he'll carry that on.
Bit of form, man. I'm really happy to see it because I know it's been a tough year for him, but and
he's better at Saka as well. I'm
going to go for a wild card from a third goal scorer as well. I think Alex Telles is due a goal, so I'm going to go for Alex Telles. So I'll go for kind of 3 wild card scorers, but I'm already playing with the house's cash in this sort of podcasting game, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah, absolutely. We've an interesting prediction here from Mushroom Kev. Mushroom Kev has said, cricket analogy, he says United to win by 3.5 lengths or 4 wickets. So yeah, that's an interesting prediction. Paul also says Greenwood and Pogba. This other person who's a troll name says 3-0 United. That's someone from my channel trying to get me to say the name. You're gonna have to try a bit better, guys. My God, you're gonna have to try a bit better. Amy, what is your score prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a boring 1-0 Greenwood score. I say it's the first time ever I've said Bruno hasn't scored because I hope he doesn't play. So it's Greenwood goal.
Yeah, and the comments just said, fuck's sake. Well, yeah, look. I only got done 2 weeks ago. I have my guard up. I'm like someone who's after getting cheated on in a relationship. My guard is so high right now. You're not gonna get me. You're not gonna get me. Look, I'm gonna go. I was gonna go 0, but I'd like to be slightly more optimistic. I'll go 3-1 United. I think we get a couple of goals. Look, I think you look at it. I think if they push on, we can. And if I fancy us to concede, well, not fancy us, but if I predict us to concede, it'll be from a set piece because that's seemingly is what we concede from all season. So, I'll go 3-1. In terms of scorers, I'm going to go for Donny van de Beek to get on the score sheet. I'm going to go for Paul Pogba to get on the score sheet as well. And I'm going to be wild here. I'm going to go for Fred coming off the bench to score.
The Brazilian will be coming out with him now.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Wild as my Telles show.
That's wilder than your Tele show. He got 1 goal on the weekend now, and it's going over my head.
He's feeling it, but
Absolutely. But yeah, look, shout out to Matt as well, who had either Matt or Mushroom Kev had the best comment of the night on about Jose Mourinho. I'm gonna have to scroll back up and get this comment before we just before we wrap up, before we finish. I'm gonna have to throw up here now. Throw this comment.
Bayern are winning.
Get it.
And yeah, won it. Fuckers.
Oh, the comment is gone. I'll have to find it. I'll have to go back to the start of the show and I'll screenshot it. But this one here is coming from Rory and says 3-0 Frederick. That would be the wildest thing in the history of football if that happened.
Hey, who said Frederick?
That happens, you should shave your head off, Keane.
Say 3-0 Frederick.
If we win 3, right, here's the thing, right? If we win 3-0 and Fred scores a hat-trick, I'll buy the third kit, not the December one, the other kit. Okay? And I'll get Fred on the back of it. And I'll wear for on the show, and you'll just see Fred 17 on the front of my top for the whole show. If we win 3-0 and Fred scores a hat-trick, I love Fred 17 on the back of my jersey. How is that? And I'll wear for a whole show. If we win 3-0 and he scores a hat-trick, I'll go on United Direct. I'll give the Glazers money, even though I hate the bastards. I love Fred 17 on the back of the jersey. I'll 100% do that. If this is recorded, this live, that's how confident I am. That's not going to happen. But I'll do that. Fred scores 3 goals and we win the game.
3 goals.
But there's one final. Yeah, the world will end if he scores a hat-trick. But just to end the show, I just want to ask this one quick-fire question to the whole panel. And ask a question to the panel on Sunday, just before we wrapped up. I'm going to ask this again. Is Jose Mourinho finished? Grant, I'm going to come to you first.
Yes. That's it. Yes.
Amy, is Jose Mourinho finished?
Without a fucking doubt, he's finished. Thank God.
I kept the best for last. Is Jose Mourinho finito?
There's a bear shit in the woods, Keane. You're done out here.
I think she used the word for Jose Mourinho earlier on. He said Jose Mourinho is obsolete.
I do like Mourinho. Like, he's fucking funny, but yeah, the game's passed him by. There's no shame in it, but he's done.
He's done at club level without a shadow of a doubt. Internationally, well, you never know, but certainly at club level, he's finished.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But maybe he could go on next year. If you're talking about international teams, and maybe he can go and manage Republic of Ireland, because that's another football team that's finished. Maybe that'll just maybe that'll help him. You know,
it is like
maybe that maybe it'd be Trapattoni 2.0. That's what it'll be. But yeah, look, that's the show wrapped up here today. Obviously, the next time we're going to be back is this Friday, where we'll be recording our Manchester United versus Burnley preview. And look, we'll be looking into that in full detail. Remember the last time we played Burnley at Old Trafford? We all know what happened there, so let's hope that doesn't happen again. But I'm just going to come to the final comment just before we wrap up here. And Reese has said, Jose is dusted, Shane is smiling, Trump isn't president, the world changing. On that note, we're going to wrap up. Smash a like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel. Join us this Friday at 8 p.m. for our Manchester United versus Burnley preview. Until then, we'll see you later.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.